one of every 8 women in the United States will come down with breast cancer. And in 2021, nearly 300,000 women in the United States will be diagnosed with invasive breast cancer, and another 50,000 with a non-breast cancer diagnosis of stage 0, or what was formerly called DCIS, ductal carcinoma in situ. But these are amazing, astounding numbers. And there are good reasons why these numbers are so high. And we're going to help you understand what those reasons are so that you can reduce these crazy, ridiculous incidence of breast cancer down to virtually nothing. Reduce your risk by over 99%.
Apparently, 20 to 40% of the cases of women who have been successfully treated in the United States today, they will end up with recurrent metastatic breast cancer, which always means some kind of an early death sentence for most women. As breast cancer now becomes this absolutely, epidemic that surrounds us, women have got to learn how to look at the facts and to learn to be brave and question authority and, quote, take risks by going against those authorities. Once you have a mammogram, you can sometimes end up, as we said, being unnecessarily treated, diagnosed and treated, and then that becomes incredibly expensive. I have met so many women and they hear about my book. They go, oh, thank you. I had breast cancer, but happily they found it early. I'm fine. And I say to them, what stage was it? And sometimes they don't know. But if they do know, they might say stage 0. And the first thing I want to say to them is, you did not have breast cancer. You never had breast cancer. But the problem is they were treated as if they had breast cancer. So a biopsy, a fine needle aspiration was done, which could have then begun to, it inflames it could create the cancer. But they had, sometimes they had surgery. I've met women who have had double mastectomies because they had DCIS. And it's a travesty. And in order to, as we've been saying, protect ourselves, knock down the risk of breast cancer by 80%, it means a woman is going to have to stand up to the American Cancer Society and say, yes, I'm going to have a clinical breast exam. Yes, I'm going to do breast self-exams again. No, I don't want a mammogram. All of these things that go against everything that the woman is being taught right now by the cancer industry.
Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Mercola helping you take control of your health. And today we're going to talk about a relatively unusual topic, something other than COVID-19, what we used to do before the pandemic craziness started. So it's not to make light of it because it's a serious issue. We're going to talk about breast cancer. Obviously affects more women than men. In fact, 1 in 8 women in their lifetime will come down with breast cancer. This year, 2021, we're looking at nearly 300,000 women in the US being diagnosed with invasive breast cancer, and another 50,000 on top of that with non-invasive breast cancer, which is kind of we'll get into details of that, but we've discussed it before, but it probably isn't breast cancer. But anyway, nevertheless, that's a lot of people, and if it's not affecting you when you're male, I'm sure you have a woman in your life, like maybe your mother or your sister or your wife. So it's a serious issue that affects in some way virtually all of us. So we are going to discuss that in depth today with the author of Busting Breast Cancer, Dr. Susan Wadia Ells. So welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mercola. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you are not a medical doctor, but you have a PhD I believe in energy economics and political development at the Fletcher School. Is that correct?
Not quite. I have a graduate degree, they call it a MALD, in energy economics and political development. My PhD is actually in women's studies with a focus on women's autobiographical writing. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Is that anything like autobiographical memory?
Autobiographical memory? I'm assuming. Let's hope it is.
No, it's not. It's actually, I was just kidding. That's the term that's used to describe people with photographic memories. That's
that's my son. Yeah. Interesting. No, it's different. But this really means that I am an investigative reporter, and so I've come to this with a very innocent, independent mind. And I think it helps that I haven't had a television in 50 years. So I haven't had a lot of the brainwashing on pink ribbons and everything else that surrounds breast cancer in this culture. So it's, I think it's helpful.
You could have a television or at least a monitor and access the news on the internet through vetted channels. But I agree, avoiding mainstream propaganda is a really wise strategy. And kudos to you for doing it for 5 decades. That's quite extraordinarily uncommon.
Right.
So, yeah, that's great. I don't know what motivated you to take this unusual course of behavior?
It just happened. I'm happy without it. And I certainly watch these days lots of different YouTube and different other platforms. I mean, I'm not uninformed, but I guess I just didn't like, all the advertisements and all of these people that I didn't know coming into my living room. I just sort of would rather hear them on the radio if I'm listening to news or, and of course with smartphones, you can access whatever kind of information you want to access. So it's fine. But I really did. And I also lived in Vermont for 15 years when the pink ribbons were beginning and would shop at a co-op. So I really didn't even know about October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It was a new phenomenon to me.
Well, I was going to say this for the end with the Susan Komen and breast cancer awareness, but before I want to dive into that first, but before we do that, I want you to help us understand what motivated you to write this book.
Sure. I have lost many friends, and I say many, I'm thinking more than 5, to recurrent metastatic breast cancer. And as I'm sure you know, recurrent metastatic breast cancer means that you were, quote, successfully treated for an early stage breast cancer. And then within months, years, or in some cases, decades, you have a recurrence. And in apparently 20 to 40% of the cases of women who have been successfully treated in the United States today, they will end up with recurrent metastatic breast cancer, which always means some kind of an early death sentence for most women. And I just got very angry. I love to investigate new topics. I've always sort of been a change maker, a culture throughout my whole career. I've just followed and done what I wanted to do. And this, I just fell into it and wouldn't let it go.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for compiling this, because it really is indeed a great resource if you want to get up to speed on what the skinny is on the breast cancer scenario and all the gory details behind it. So let's skip to this Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October, and why this is such a fraud, essentially, and the Susan Komen Foundation, combined with that.
Right. Well, it's really the pharmaceutical industry's celebration, I think, of all of the money they're making from mammograms to, we can talk about overdiagnosing tens of thousands of women every year, and then overtreating them, and then the possibility that sometimes the treatment will increase inflammation. And as we know very well, understanding the new metabolic theory of cancer, that's what can exacerbate, that's what can sometimes initiate breast cancer in women who, as you said earlier, have been diagnosed with, let's say, stage 0, but don't have any invasive tumors. So I think that was the reason.
Okay, good. So yeah, it seems the financial component is a very serious motivating catalyst for much of what we're seeing in the breast cancer industry. And it is indeed an industry because of the finances involved. So why don't you enlighten us on some of the components that motivates this type of behavior?
As I've found in my research, and anyone who reads the book is now out. I'm so proud of it. It's so beautifully designed. I really need to show it. It's out on Amazon now. It's on my website. It's all over the place. But I think the reason that I wanted to do this book was really to teach women how to avoid getting breast cancer, because the money is being made once you have a mammogram. You can sometimes end up, as we said, being unnecessarily diagnosed and treated, and then that becomes incredibly expensive. And now, as I had said, 20 to 40% of women who are being diagnosed with treated for an early stage breast cancer are ending up being treated for recurrent metastatic breast cancer, which means that they're spending an inordinate amount of money. The drugs that have been developed are not to stop the disease. The drugs that have been developed are to extend your life. And I think the most important thing about my book is, as I had started way back 12 years ago, looking at all of the epidemiological studies, the statistical studies on how birth control drugs, how low vitamin D3, all of these issues would be creating a lot of breast cancer. No one could tell a woman why she got breast cancer. They would say to women, well, maybe Jennifer, it was just your turn, or maybe Jennifer, you were the unlucky one. And I was really the lucky one, because in 2013, I discovered Dr. Thomas Seyfried's book called The Metabolic Theory of Cancer, which you have highlighted a number of times in your interviews, and I believe gave him the Game Changer Award early on that you give out every year for major discoveries. And once I found that book by Dr. Seyfried, my life changed. Now I could begin to piece together all of the statistical studies on birth control drug risks and progestin menopausal drug risks and mammogram risks and biopsy. I could begin to piece all of these statistical studies together and help and come up with and understand why I was able to come up with effective prevention steps for women. So this has happily become a good news book that women need to understand that we can prevent this disease probably 80%, if not more of the time.
Yeah, I would agree. And thank you for shifting and transitioning to the hopeful side, because even though the statistics I quoted earlier can be somewhat discouraging, it really highlights the fact that this is a serious issue that you have to pay attention to. It doesn't mean you have to use conventional strategies to do it. If there are, in fact, these natural lifestyle interventions that could essentially eliminate it, I would go to say that you could probably reduce it by a factor of 95% or greater. And that's because 80% with the variables you discuss in your book, especially the vitamin D and metabolic flexibility, removing insulin resistance. But in addition to that, the underappreciated one, and I don't recall you mentioning it in your book though, but it is, and it's common because almost any natural health educator misses this one. They understand and acknowledge the fact that we need to avoid dangerous processed foods. No one disagrees with that. That's a non-controversial. But embedded in that is the lack of appreciation of just how dangerous certain processed foods are. And I'm referring specifically to vegetable oils, which are loaded with an omega-6 fat called linoleic acid. And that in excess, I think, really explains for the additional 19% improvement you can get. Because if you minimize this to pre-1850 levels, to essentially 1 to 2% of the total daily calorie intake, which is about 90 to 95% lower than the average American is consuming currently, that forms the basis for the molecular biological changes that actually continue to contribute to the primary issue. And that certainly metabolic flexibility is important, and vitamin D, they all contribute. But when you overlay that on top of linoleic acid excess, that's just it's probably the most significant metabolic poison in our diet.
Well, Dr. Mercola, you're right. And the first simple step that I'm recommending to all women is to lose your excess body fat.
Yes.
And the question is, and maybe your research has shown you this, how much do these these processed vegetable oils, these dangerous oils, how much are they contributing in the processed food to today's obesity epidemic?
Oh, it's a huge variable.
Exactly. And so if women can begin to follow a low carb ketogenic lifestyle, as I talk about in chapter 1, and lose excess body fat, they're doing a double service to their body. They're stopping produce this excess estrogen from their fat cells that are attacking the mitochondria, which we can talk about in a minute.
Yeah, that's key, because that's what excess LA does. But you can go on a low carb, high fat diet and have a significant percentage of that fat be linoleic acid.
Well, you wouldn't want to do that.
No, but there are many people who do make that mistake. I'm confident of that. So it's the devil's in the details. But what many people also fail to appreciate is the obesity component that you referenced to. Typically, that's a symptom, but it's an important symptom with breast cancer because as an artifact of having high levels of visceral body fat, your body makes an enzyme called aromatase, which increases estrogen, and help us understand why that's such a big issue with breast cancer.
Well, that takes us back to Tom Seyfried's metabolic theory of cancer. Mm-hmm. And that we now understand, since he published that book in 2012, we now understand that what causes that first cancer cell to happen in every person, and that can be a breast cancer cell or a brain cancer cell, is there are assaults that are happening during your life, to your life, that are creating assaults on the power batteries within, in this case, your breast cells, creating assaults to the power batteries that basically suffocate them. And what was discovered, I suppose, in the 70s is that these little power batteries in our bodies.
You're referring to mitochondria, just so people.
Exactly, the mitochondria, and I tend to interchange the word mitochondria with power batteries, because mitochondria, that's a big word, and that can really, turn people off, and they're like, it's too hard for me to understand.
Oh no, not in our viewers. Our viewers are very sophisticated.
Okay, fine. And so anyway, so all of these things are suffocating the mitochondria, and when you have unbalanced estrogen to progesterone, then or chemical like progesterones, then that excess hormone is a suffocating operation. It can harm those mitochondria, and so that's why I also talk about in chapter 4 in the book, is the importance of not taking birth control drugs or the Prempro, what they call the combination menopausal relief drugs, or even having a progestin-laced IUD inserted, because that has now been shown, and I talk about that in the chapter, to not only accelerate breast cancer, but also has the potential of initiating breast cancer.
Yeah, well, the reason why that's so important to me is that many people may not realize or recall, because I mentioned this previously, but it was probably over a decade ago, that when I first started in medicine, after I finished my family medicine residency in 1985, I was actually a paid speaker by the drug companies. And they would fly me around the country to lecture other physicians about hormone replacement therapy. because I was a big advocate. I was brainwashed effectively through the propaganda that they supplied, the drug propaganda that supplied in medical school. And I was a firm believer in it. And, there appeared to be, from the studies that were published, a benefit. But when you dive deeper into it, you realize that it's all hogwash. And it does, in fact, the estrogen will increase a woman's risk for cancer. As I understand, it's because of these estrogen receptors. That's why many people who are diagnosed with breast cancer, they do this estrogen receptor test to see and seek to minimize the estrogen load, and maybe even put the women on estrogen receptor blockers. So that's a big issue. But this progesterone is another one. And most of it's related to the fact that there's synthetic chemicals, because you can have natural estrogen and progesterone or synthetic. And the synthetic, obviously, intuitively would make sense to be far more dangerous. And in fact, they are. For me, what your book massively highlighted, and I tend to forget how dangerous it is, are these birth control pills, because every one of the birth controls, to the last one, has a synthetic progesterone in it. Progestin, it's called, not progesterone, but synthetic progesterone, which is progestin. And that is the killer when it comes to breast cancer. So why don't you help us understand that in a little more detail?
Sure. In 2010, there was an incredibly important study that has gotten buried. It came out of the lead researcher at that point was in Vienna, Joseph Penninger. And on that study team of about 12 people, one now being the CEO and president of Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, they had spent 10 years apparently working with mice in a preclinical settings around the world, trying to figure out why women who would take progestin drugs, be they birth control drugs or be they menopausal drugs, women who were taking this synthetic progesterone, why they were having 26+% increased risks of developing breast cancer. And they finally published the study in 2010 that basically explained in some more detail, not totally, but in some more detail, exactly how the progestin pulls out something called or activates tons of something called rankle, which I understand is a protein. And that apparently, though they don't say these words, suffocate the mitochondria in a woman's breast cells. And that's why you have not only an initiation, a 26% with postmenopausal women, we now realize a 26% increase in breast cancer. But you also have, we see all of the statistical studies in terms of women who have been taking birth control drugs. And I must list 36 of these studies. I cite them in the chapter on progestin drugs. And the sad thing is that no one, not even researchers since then, in the field of breast cancer prevention are even citing this study. They're not aware of it for some reason, but it was published in October of 2010 in Nature magazine, which we all know is a very significant, well-known scientific journal.
Well, it's not only well-known, it's one of the most prestigious. It's one of the top 3 scientific journals in the world. Science.
Exactly. So I quote directly from that in my chapter on the progestin. And the other thing that I mention, and again, I'm sure you know this, the medical profession, the scientific profession, the government cancer agencies, no one will make up 2 words. They conflate the 2 words progesterone with progestin, even though they are chemically different substances. You will find in studies that are talking about one or the other that they conflate, they intersperse, they use the terms interchangeably in these studies. So you come out of it having no idea, if you've just read about progestin, the chemical that causes breast cancer and accelerates it, or if you've read about natural progesterone, which when natural progesterone is balanced with natural estrogen, there's not a problem. You don't have an overabundance. The estrogen is not hurting the mitochondria in a healthy breast cell. There's nothing wrong with natural estrogen. I think The other thing that women really need to understand is they need to have an estrogen metabolite test to see if they're actually efficiently processing their excess used estrogen and they're urinating it on a regular basis so that they're keeping their estrogen progesterone balanced. Or they can take an estrogen balancing test to start off with, or hormone balancing test, and see if their estrogen and their progesterone is even. And if not, then take the metabolite test to see if maybe they're a little sluggish in eliminating their used up estrogen, which becomes toxic. And then they can take DIM supplements and all sorts of wonderful things to, and you know so much about this, to eliminate this excess toxic estrogen from their body.
Yeah, and it gets a more complex version to it also, because estrogen is divided into three types: estrone, which is estradiol, and estriol. So it's the ratios of these things that become important too. So ideally, you want to measure all three. And when you're administering natural or bioidentical estrogen or progesterone, you want to, the delivery system becomes a big issue too. So it's frowned upon by most people, understand this at a deeper level, to swallow it, because your body is not used to swallowing your hormones. And as a result of swallowing, it gets absorbed through the bloodstream and then bypasses has to go through the liver from the gut first. And then the liver processes because it perceives it as a foreign molecule, and it methylates it, and it's a different molecule, and that's going to screw things up too. So typically a big proponent of natural progesterone was John Lee, who's since passed. So I was a big fan of his in the mid 90s, and he popularized or helped popularize transdermal progesterone, which I had thousands and thousands of women on, and hit unbelievable results. But almost universally, they would all get great results the first few months, and then it would stop working because there would be sort of a tachyphylaxis of resistance to absorption through the skin. So the ideal is, and if anyone's interested in this further, the major pioneer in this is Dr. Jonathan Wright, who actually brought bioidentical hormone therapy to the United States. And he concluded that transmucosal administration or application into different mucosal surfaces in the body. And in a women, they have two options. One would be the vagina, and then the other is the rectum. And in the men, we've only got the rectum. So using that route of entry can bypass this liver metabolism and get the hormone directly into your blood. So, you know, it's like most things in health, the devil's in the details. So, it's important to know the big picture, but once you understand it, then you really got to dive deep to know how to optimally implement it.
Yeah, and there are some studies. In fact, David Zava, who has been a long time working with John Lee's science writer, Virginia Hopkins, his lab out west offers both the estrogen metabolite and the estrogen balancing, and it's a very user-friendly group. There are other
sure
labs as well, but as you say, that group was one of the first to really look at natural progesterone and how important it was. And natural progesterone apparently is also a tumor suppressor, that people, again, don't talk much about. So there we are.
Yeah, it's used for men with prostate cancer too, with great success, as I last recall on that topic. I haven't reviewed prostate cancer for a while though.
Yeah. I think of the 5 simple steps that my book talks about is one that many of your interviewees and your books talk about. And that, of course, is the vitamin D3.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found really interesting about that is that it would appear that breast tumors grow much faster than most, if any, other tumors in the body. And so therefore, even the studies will show that if you keep your D3 level at, let's say, 40 nanograms per milliliter, that will usually protect you against prostate cancer or liver cancer. But for breast cancer, it's been shown that there's never been a woman diagnosed with breast cancer who has a D3 blood level over 60. So that 60 becomes the magical number when a woman is trying to protect herself from developing breast cancer using the D3. And of course, that is the cheapest, the easiest way of, not necessarily the easiest. Once you get older, it gets much more difficult to get your D3 above 60 or up to 60. So I find at this point, I need to be doing indoor tanning as well as because I'm up in New England and it's winter time still, even though it happens to be April. I mean,
it's full-blown summer in Florida.
Oh yeah, well, I did a lot of house sitting in Key West, and I would rent my condo out, on the ocean here in Manchester by the sea, and so I know the Key West summers, and it's great. I don't care, It's great.
So I would tend to disagree with the assessment, though, because it may be not easy to optimize it to 80, but certainly it's easy to take the steps, and it's inexpensive as heck. There is no less expensive supplement, I guess, as maybe salt, if you consider it a supplement, but you just have to swallow a pill. And you're right. Most people in the United States need to take a supplement because they live like you in areas that are similar latitudes to the New England. And the latitude tends to be a real limiting factor because most people in the US are unable to get significant vitamin D from the sun from September, October to April, May, in that range somewhere there. Even if you were in the middle of summer, which is June 21st, the summer solstice, you still have to be outside. And you got to be outside in a bathing suit, not in full clothing. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You got to have a full body tan.
Right.
But it's so extraordinary. And let me just expand on the numbers too, because you said 60 nanograms per billion. That's correct. I think that's the minimum threshold, but I don't think there's a huge benefit in going over much higher than that. So I keep the range of 60 to 80. And for those of our viewers who are not in the United States and are in Canada or in Europe, they use a different unit structure. It's called nanomoles per liter, and the number would be multiplied by 2.5. So it's 100 to 150 nanomoles per liter, or 60 to 80 nanograms per ml. So those are and you cannot feel it. You cannot feel if your vitamin D is 10 or 100. You just can't. Maybe indirectly because you came down with cancer, but normally you cannot feel it. So get your blood tested. It is really key. Right. You'll never know and figure it out otherwise. But once you establish a rhythm, it takes probably a few years to get your rhythm because of the cycles with the winter and summer. But then you just keep up the same thing. And you may have to check periodically because as you get older, as you mentioned, you have challenges with optimizing your level. But this is the reason we're spending time on this. This is so important because just doing vitamin D, like you mentioned, 60 to 80, I believe will knock down your risk of breast cancer by 80%.
Exactly.
80%.
Exactly. Now, the other problem with American women is the obesity and D3 and the obesity. So that apparently if you take 5,000 IUs of D3 a day, it could be that your body is only able to utilize half of that. And the other half is going and being stored in your fat cells. So that what some functional medicine physicians are finding is when women or men start to lose their weight because they're on ketogenic diets or whatever, once they lose 15% of their weight, the fat cells let loose with the D3 and their D3 goes shooting up. So it's not as if you'll never be able to use that D3, but if you're overweight, understand that when you're taking 1,000, 5,000 IUs a day of D3, your body is not absorbing it. Half of it's going to your fat cells. So
it's absorbing it. It's just translocating it into the fat tissue.
Okay.
1,000 to 5,000 units a day for the vast majority, maybe 80, 90% of the people, adults, is inadequate. The average adult with the typical UV exposure requirement is about 8,000 units. And that's been well documented through Carol Bagley's work in Grassroots Health and over 15,000 patients that they've analyzed with this data. So
yeah. In my book, I talk about Carol's amazing work as well as Michael Holick at Boston University, as well as Cedric Garland, who is also with Carol down in San Diego. Those three, in my estimation, have done wonderful work, especially around breast cancer and D3. and they're, quite amazing. But the other thing that I find very, very difficult with women, or probably men too, is you say, and D3 is very important. They go, oh, no problem, I'm fine. I take 1,000 IUs a day. And I'm like, what's your number?
It's a joke.
They say, I don't know, but my doctor says I'm fine. I go, no, no, no. And of course, we haven't talked about the government and the misinformation that unfortunately our US government is now giving people when it comes to D3 or mammograms or any of those things. But the government is sort of saying we don't see a connection between D3 and breast cancer, or maybe if there is 1,000 is fine. And so the doctors will tell them, oh, that's fine, you're taking 1,000. And they don't even test sometimes. You have to demand the test. So that's the big thing about D3, is for every person to know their blood level. And if they don't know their blood level, they don't know if they're protected or not.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And let me just share an interesting example. Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson's daughter, she was pretty much the catalyst for implementation of the carnivore diet. She has a history of severe autoimmune disease with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And she was going to she did interview for my book, my most recent book on COVID-19. And in the process, I had a lot of experience with JRA and wanted to see if I could help her. And so the first thing, because just like breast cancer, for any autoimmune disease, vitamin D is crucial. It's really, really hard to beat it unless your vitamin D is optimized. So the reason I'm sharing this story, because it's so illustrative of the challenges with understanding this information. This is why both of us have shared these numbers really carefully, because when Michaela shared her vitamin D results with me, it was 55. So she just gave me the 55. So I knew she lived in Canada. So I said, Michaela, is that 55 nanograms per milliliter, which would be fantastic. And I think she thought it was fantastic. And then she actually sent me the test and it was 55 nanomoles. So she had a vitamin D level below 20. Yes. Below 20. And here's the interesting part that I wanted to emphasize again, because that test result came back normal range on the lab. Yes. So you just have to scratch out the normal range when you're looking at vitamin D and ignore it, because they're lying to you. Well, maybe lying is too harsh a term, because they're just ignorant. They have not integrated the studies from the last 20 years which show these levels are what you need. So you got to write these numbers down, and you have to be your doctor. Can't rely on your doctor, as you just said, because most of the time they're ignorant about this and are not going to give you information. Now, there are some good ones out there and they get this, but they are the exception. They're not the rule.
Right. And another important thing that I found about this book, and why it's so important for women to read the book and understand the 5 simple steps in busting breast cancer, is because most of these steps go against everything that the American Cancer Society is telling us, that Susan G. Komen is telling us, that in some cases most cases are regular primary care practitioners are telling us. And women, if you have studied any of the psychology of women that came out in the 70s, have a much harder time questioning authority than men. And so as breast cancer now becomes this absolutely, epidemic that surrounds us, especially in the United States, where we have the highest breast cancer rates of anywhere in the world for a major country, women have got to learn how to look at the facts, and hopefully the facts are throughout my book, and to learn to be brave and question authority and, quote, take risks by going against those authorities. I mean, you just think about a mud puddle and 15-year-olds, and the boys will jump really fast if you say, I bet you can't jump over that, and they don't care if they get their feet dirty or whatever, splash on their clothes. And girls will go, oh, I can't, I have the wrong shoes on, I might mess something up. I mean, from early ages, women are so much more terrified of going against authority. And in order to as we've been saying, protect ourselves, knock down the risk of breast cancer by 80%, or more, 99%, it means a woman is going to have to stand up to the American Cancer Society and say, yes, I'm going to have a clinical breast exam. Yes, I'm going to do breast self-exams again. No, I don't want a mammogram. You know, all of these things that go against everything that the woman is being taught right now by the cancer industry.
Yeah, so I've done extensive articles on mammography in the past, so much so that the state of Illinois Medical Board decided to discipline or remove my license because I wasn't selling anything. I was just telling people the dangers of mammograms and disputing a study published in New England Journal of Medicine. Fortunately, I had to, the medical board wanted to remove my license, and I think they successfully started the action. Then we appealed and sued them in the state Supreme Court, and we won, because it was a freedom of speech issue. So why don't you share with people why, because we haven't talked about mammograms for a while,
right.
But why don't you tell us, review the highlights of why mammograms are not your best choice?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they can really get you into trouble. One simple mammogram, you know, can really take you down a bad path. Well, the first thing I always say is, who thinks it's really helpful to have, you know, two big metal plates with tons of pressure smash your breast tissue? That's number one. I mean, it has been shown, although you won't find a lot of studies because no one will fund these studies, that some some cancerous tumors can actually be smashed, broken by a mammogram. And of course, you know, we know that breast cells, cancer cells, once they're on the loose, can fuse with macrophages and end up giving you metastatic breast cancer. I mean, it's shown in so many studies, and I talk about that in a few of the chapters in my book. And so that's the first thing about mammograms. But probably the major concern that I have with mammograms is the fact that they are overdiagnosing women with what they call, used to be called DCI, used to be called atypical cells. Then they revved it up, the fear. It's all about fear. Then they revved it up to something called DCIS, ductal carcinoma in situ. When, again, as you mentioned earlier,
it sounds dangerous.
Yeah, I know, it's carcinoma. Oh my God, right? And of course, it's not a tumor. It's not invasive, it's not cancer. And they're showing that maybe 5% of DCIS will eventually 10 years from now, 15 years from now, turn to cancer. Well, that's a normal risk level for someone in their 60s, let's say. So they're cooking the books with the numbers. But then they now call it, it's no longer DCIS. Now they're calling it stage 0 breast cancer. So I have met so many women, and they hear about my book. They go, oh, thank you. I had breast cancer, but happily they found it early. I'm fine. And I say to them, what stage was it? And sometimes they don't know. But if they do know, they might say stage 0. And the first thing I want to say to them is, you did not have breast cancer. You never had breast cancer. But the problem is they were treated as if they had breast cancer. So a biopsy, a fine needle aspiration was done, which could have then begun to, you know, it inflames it. It could create the cancer. But they had, you know, sometimes they had surgery. I've met women who have had double mastectomies because they had DCIS, and it's a travesty.
It's almost as bad as Angelina Jolie for prophylactic mastectomy.
That's right. And of course, as soon as she did that, the rate of prophylactic mastectomies just increased like crazy. Yeah. I mean, women are it's like the COVID epidemic. People are being given all of these reasons to be fearful about breast cancer. And my book becomes, a unique piece of merchandise in the store, because it's saying, no, breast cancer, you don't have to fear it anymore. It is this, there are ways that you can stop it before it starts. And we're finding out with recurrent metastatic breast cancer, there are ways that are non-toxic that you can make that go away. And there's even a case study from Turkey in my book of how they have used strictly non-toxic metabolic therapies to remove all of the metastatic cells from this 30-year-old woman. And as long as she was willing to participate and stay on her low-carb diet and have her non-toxic therapies every few months, she stayed clear. So
I know. I interviewed the author of that study previously.
Dr. Slocum.
Slocum, yes.
Yes.
Really, so but you touched on this biopsy issue and you just kind of skirted over it. And I want you to head back there and expand on that, because this is something that Dr. Seyfried has highlighted as a big risk, and to be very, very careful to ever get a biopsy for a tumor, especially a breast cancer. So why don't you share a little bit more details on this?
Well, this is what I'm really doing. A lot of my new research is on, trying to find the studies that are out there and trying to share that with people, but there aren't a lot of studies. But as I said earlier, that it looks like it's from 20 to 40%. And I think it's closer to the 40%, I hate to say, of women who are treated with early stage breast cancer in the US at least now go on to develop this recurrent metastatic breast cancer. And then the question becomes, what percentage of them, of those cases were caused, what percentage was caused by the biopsy or the biopsies? And as Dr. Seyfried so clearly describes, he's taken a whole chapter in his book, Cancer as a Metabolic Disease, to describe the actual biological process of when a tumor cell is released from a biopsy and the inflammation is happening, the immune system cells, including the macrophage, come in to try and heal this new wound that the oncologist, the surgeon, has just created in the woman's breast. And that macrophage then merges, morphs with that errant breast cancer cell and takes off into the woman's body. And apparently, it's a fairly logical metabolic disease, because the majority of women who end up with metastatic breast cancer, it goes either to the bone, to the brain, or to the liver, and maybe one other spot. But it's very clear that there's a process involved, a metabolic process, not a haphazard process involved. So what I'm trying to do, and I talk about this in chapter 10, is get the state cancer boards to release the data. Right now, women who have metastatic breast cancer, they're completely alone. They don't even know how many other women have metastatic breast cancer, recurrent metastatic breast cancer. The state cancer boards, as you well know, they're required to collect that data within 6 months of a diagnosis from licensed physicians and licensed clinics. But the state cancer boards, to the best of my knowledge, are not allowed to release that data. And so no one understands how, and I feel like the recurrent breast cancer epidemic, metastatic breast cancer epidemic, is growing exponentially. And you can just see this by looking at the exponential growth of the drug income coming from the metastatic breast cancer drugs, that they're now more than 50% of all the income coming into the industry in the breast cancer industry is the metastatic breast cancer drug income.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing those details about the importance of avoiding biopsies. There's another interesting fact you mentioned in your book that I wasn't directly familiar with, and I suspect many people aren't also familiar with, is the use of a drug that I believe 1 in 4 American adults over the age of 40 are taking. 1 in 4. It's 25% of the population. And they found that women who had been on this drug for more than 10 years, they actually doubled their risk of breast cancer. And that drug, many of you may have guessed by now, are statins.
Right. Now, apparently statins do lower glucose levels, is it? But that's the only thing I've ever found out about statins that tends to be good. Yeah, and it was really terrifying to find that out about the statin drugs and breast cancer. So that apparently it's a really powerful kind of drug that wants to be avoided at all costs.
Yeah, and another highlight of your book that I found was the non-progesterone IUD. So why don't you talk about IUDs for a bit and the copper alternative that I believe can be inserted for up to 10 years or so and provide contraceptive benefits, and how that in the United States, the introduction of this device for a typical woman, I'm not sure if it's covered by insurance or not, but it's like $1,000, where the actual cost of the device is like 50 cents.
Yes. Yeah, this is where my graduate work in political economy came in and served me well. I just kept, unpeeling the onion. And what I found out is in the 70s, I had an IUD, a copper coil IUD. Was all they didn't have progestin-based IUDs back then, and I had it inserted it was there for 10 years, and it served me well. Apparently, in 1999. There was only one IUD on the U.S. market, and that was the current copper coil that they named Paragard. And there's a whole story about why there was only one, because there used to be about 5 or 6. But anyway, in 1999, there was only one. And suddenly, overnight, the FDA decided to reclassify this medical device, this copper coil, this 50-cent copper coil, from a medical device where it had been for 30 years to a pharmaceutical drug. And they said that the copper is what is causing the effectiveness of the IUD. Therefore, it's a drug. It's the copper. It's a drug. And so when they did that, they virtually blocked the market for all other hormone-free IUDs, because as Europe had then and continued to make more makes and models with different brands of copper coil and hormone-free IUDs, they were blocked from coming on the US market, because now that IUDs were considered to be, the hormone-free IUDs were considered to be drugs, they had to do multi-million-dollar, $100 million studies, because it's a 10-year double-blind placebo-controlled study for any drug. And now this copper coil was considered a drug. And so meanwhile, in Europe today,
excuse me, can you hold that thought for a moment, Susan? Because sure. I just want to interject something that's really important. That it's so shocking that they could change the rules, because most typically, the reason why there's exceptions, they grandfather things in, and they have grandfathered the most toxic, some of the most toxic chemicals known to man as safe, because they've been in use for a long time. But yet when it comes to a money-making pharmaceutical device, they can change the rules and not grandfather them and require these double-blinded placebo-controlled trials, which is in many places makes a lot of sense. They should have done this for these grandfathered chemicals, which are toxic as can be, but they're not. So anyway, I'm sorry for that. It's just.
No, it's fine. No, right. No, I mean, I have a hard time being able to present this information without getting really angry, and it because it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. And again, women need to understand that we have to question authority. The authorities out there are not looking after our best interests. The authorities have now been co-opted by the industry, and they're looking out for their investors. And they're talking about a 10% increase in metastatic breast cancer drug income. And so many women are developing breast cancer because they've been forced to go on the birth control drug, because the cost of that hormone-free IUD became unbearable, and only if you had insurance that would cover it. So poor women were being given, or still are being given, the progestin only shots that last for 3 months, that increase their risk of breast cancer worse than if they're taking the pill. But the pill is increasing it much more than if they're on a hormone-free IUD, because they're not getting that progestin. So basically, I believe that reclassification was done only to support the birth control drug industry. And then, you know, when you think about 2002, and many women, postmenopausal women at least, will remember, that's when they stopped the study of the progestin-based menopausal relief drugs, because it showed, with this huge $700 million national women's health initiative, or they call it the National Health Initiative, in which they were studying the benefits and liabilities of these menopausal relief drugs, that is when we found out, oh, this progestin in these menopausal relief drugs is increasing the development of palpable tumors by 26% within 3 years. So the question then became, once they knew that, why in the world didn't the National Institutes of Health also put in a big study on birth control drugs? And are the birth control drugs increasing breast cancer? Because as we know, birth control drugs have 10 times more progestin in them than the menopausal progestin drugs. And they didn't do it, I am sure, because the industry did not want to destroy the birth control revenues, the birth control drug revenues. And so there's a reason we have seen premenopausal women's breast cancer rates in the United States. And I show the study that my little group did. I still owe my statistician a couple $1,000. And we contacted 7 state cancer boards. And we said, could you please send us, because no one else had done this statistical study. We said, can you send us the rate of breast cancer of women under 50 years old between 1985, when they started to advertise those birth control drugs on TV, from 1985 to like 2005. And we saw, no matter if it were Florida, Colorado, and Massachusetts, those were our 3 states that we ended up looking at, that there was a 1 to 2% annual increase over those years in breast cancer rates in women under 50. And that's when birth control drugs really had taken off, because we had the Clinton administration allowed this drug ads to be put on television so you could tell your doctor what drug you wanted instead of having the doctor tell you what drug you should have. So that's the story.
Okay, so for that, thank you for going into details, because if that doesn't infuriate you, I don't know what would, because that decision is directly responsible for killing tens of millions of women from breast cancer unnecessarily. Tens of millions. Yes. No question. Yes. No question.
Yes.
That's reprehensible.
Right.
So,
and that's one of the political steps that my book talks about. There are 7 political action steps. And one of them is for women's groups and health groups to go to the FDA and knock on the door and say, just change it. Just change it. You know, change it back. Make the hormone-free IUD a medical device again, and open up the market, flood the market with all of the European makes and models, and make it affordable for women.
That would be an effective strategy if we didn't live in the dino What is a dino? That is a democracy in name only. We do not have a democracy. We have a captured federal regulatory agency that is absolutely non-responsive to the public. 100%. It's responsive to the industry. So it won't work. I mean, it's a laudatory effort, but it won't do a darn thing in my view. Right. So you've got to do it yourself. You've got to take control of your health. You've got to be your own doctor. So bottom line is, do not personally take any hormonal birth control, or anyone that you know or love have to take any of this stuff. Fortunately, there is a device. It's a copper IUD. So why don't you walk us through how someone who's interested in this relatively safe, I mean, there are some complications, primarily from insertion and uterine perforation stuff, but they're relatively minor, relatively safe form of contraception. How do they get it without having to pay $1,000? They go to Mexico. I mean, what's the strategy here?
Yeah, no, I mean, I say in the book, the best way is, well, of course, if you do have medical insurance, that's going to cover it. But it's a one-size-fits-all Paragard, and that's not the way to go. That's not the best way to go. Best way to go is to go to Europe, if you can get there today without being vaccinated, which I just read this morning you cannot, or go to Mexico. Canada seems to be controlled similar to the US, even though it's not quite as bad. I think the cost of a Paragard is much cheaper in Canada.
That's the name of the copper IUD, Paragard.
Yeah, that's the name of it. And it, but also don't bring it back with you, because it's a drug, and your Planned Parenthood clinic is not allowed to administer a foreign purchased drug to you. So if you bring back your $10 Paragard and let them know you got it in Mexico, or it says from Mexico, they'll say, sorry, Sarah Lou, we cannot insert it. We can only insert one that's bought here, which is $1,000.
That will kill you prematurely.
Huh?
That will kill you prematurely.
Right. But I think it is better to get one that fits you well, because they're now, I don't know who's doing it, but they're bringing so many court cases against the Paragard, women having issues with it. And I don't know if this is a fabricated situation and it's a PR move to take women away from them and to push women to the progestin-based IUDs. But apparently the progestin-based IUDs have the same risk level for breast cancer as the progestin drugs. So it's not a solution.
Well, this is just great. You've highlighted a very important issue that affects so many women. As we mentioned earlier, nearly 300,000 women in the United States alone will come down with invasive, not stage 0, but invasive, either 1 through 4 breast cancer this year. And that's a lot of women. Right. So let me just summarize the recommendations, and you can highlight and expand on what you want, and then we can sign off. Sure. But the key thing, this is not that hard. I firmly believe there's 4 steps you can do that will lower your risk of breast cancer, because it's always going to be there. It's just a matter of what is the risk. From the current state it is today to 99% lower than that. It's literally 1/100th. And what are those steps? Get your vitamin D level. Not only is it going to be breast cancer, it's going to be almost every other single cancer you're going to normalize, and heart disease, which are the 2 biggest causes of deaths. Collectively, it's well over 2/3 of your risk of dying is from heart disease and cancer. So why don't you do it? It's simple. It's virtually free. And you've got to be irrationally foolish not to integrate that. So that's step 1. And, it's just a no-cost deal. Become metabolically flexible. Optimize your body weight, ideally through time-restricted eating. And if you're overweight now, reducing your carbohydrates and eventually going into cyclical ketogenesis, because that will maintain it. But and part of that process is an important part of that, as I mentioned earlier, that virtually very, very few people understand. You simply cannot have vegetable oils. And believe me, you need to be OCD. You have to have obsessive compulsive disorder. You've got to read every single label. It has any vegetable oil in there, canola oil, soy oil, sunflower. You cannot have it. That's because it's in almost all processed foods. And that means also you have to extend that to all the foods you're eating, not just the ones you eat at home, but if you're eating out, if you buy any fast food, if you're in a restaurant, guaranteed virtually 100% it's going to be loaded with these vegetable oils. And it doesn't say, there's no warning label on it. Right. It's not like a pack of cigarettes that says, warning, it's going to increase your risk. It hasn't there. It should be there, but the government hasn't figured it out at this point, and we're probably decades away from that being implemented. So you've got to take control of it yourself. It's your responsibility. You cannot have vegetable oils. Same thing as vitamin D. It's going to radically lower your risk of not like breast cancer, for every other cancer, every other chronic disease, age-related macular degeneration, arthritis, heart disease, you name it, it's connected. So, and then finally, for contraception, don't use synthetic hormones. It's an anathema. It's dangerous. It's going to radically increase your risk for cancer. If you are in need of a contraceptive device, consider a trip to Mexico, getting it customized, sized for you specifically, and installed, implemented down there. Now, don't bring it back, and you're off to the races. For less than the cost that you pay in the U.S., you'll get a free trip to Mexico. Go in the winter, benefit from the sunshine, and you're off. And you get
right. And there's two others I would add.
Okay, go ahead.
One is to have an annual thermogram.
Oh, yes, yes.
The thermogram is going to show you if you have inflamed breast tissue. And if you have inflamed breast tissue, you better get rid of your excess weight. You better raise your vitamin D3 to 60. You better stop your progestin drugs if you're doing it, because you're creating your own breast cancer. And the other is one that is a natural, is to keep your mind and your body detoxed. And that means daily meditation. That means breast massage. You want to keep the lymph in your breast moving. It means no underwires in the bras. It means get the bras off as much as possible. It means touch your breasts as much as possible, because so many women that just sits there, it's stagnant. And then they're shocked when they develop breast cancer. They're letting all of the toxins sit in their lymph system that's running through their breasts, and nothing is ever moving, especially if they're unable to do a lot of exercise, or they have the wrong bras on, that are not allowing any movement. So it's question authority, question authority, question authority.
All right. Well, thanks for applying your investigative reporting skills to putting the pieces of the puzzle together to help women understand what the variables are and how they can take control of their health with relatively simple interventions.
Right. And I say the book is now available on Amazon. The ebook will be out in another week or so, and then someone has funded the audiobook, which I'm delighted with. And 20% of all my net sales on this book are going to the
Susan Komen Foundation.
No, right. The Foundation for Metabolic Cancer Therapies.
Okay. Is that Tom Seyfried's?
Is that what?
Is that Tom Seyfried's?
That's Travis Christofferson.
Travis Christofferson, that's right. He donates most of that to Tom.
Giving all the money. So all the money that he brings in with no administrative overhead goes straight to Tom's preclinical work with metastatic cancers.
Yeah, and the nice thing about that is it's not donated to Boston College where he's employed.
Right.
So it's because if it went to Boston College, he'd have to take a 50% cut. So he gets 100% of it.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Because we've helped him out in that process too.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great.
All right. Well, thank you for your work, and encourage everyone to pick up a copy of the book and make sure, if Mrs. said, if there's a woman in your life that you care about deeply, then this is something they're going to be concerned about. So
right. But I'm also offering discounts on bulk orders. We've got some biology classes that are wanting the book, book groups, women's breast cancer support groups. A lot of different kinds of groups are wanting to read this book. So they can go to my website, which is bustingbreastcancer.com, and then get 15-20% off copies of the book when they buy a group of books.
Good. Excellent. Thank you for providing that resource. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you.